Sam Kinison was widely known for his grotesque comedy and his animal-like presence on the stage. But he was a troubled person offstage with drug problems like no other. A former revivalist preacher, Kinison became well known as a comic by yelling obscenities at crowds while performing live and by embracing glam metal, the rock and roll movement that had taken over popular culture in the late 1980s. On the evening of April 10, 1992, Kinison's reckless lifestyle of speeding through life would finally catch up with him. His Trans Am had collided with a pickup truck, wounding his recently wed wife Malika and killing him. Samuel Burrell Kinison was born in Yakima, Washington on December 8, 1953. The family moved to East Peoria, Illinois when Kinison was 3 months old. At the age of 3 years, Kinison was hit by a truck which left him with brain damage. His father pastored several churches around the country, receiving little income. Kinison had 2 older brothers, Richard and Bill, and a younger brother, Kevin. His parents divorced when Kinison was 11, after which his brother Bill went to live with his father while Kinison stayed with the rest of the family against his protestations. Bill described this as the root of much of Sam's anger. Kinison later attended East Peoria Community High School in East Peoria. Kinison and his brothers emulated their father by becoming Pentecostal preachers. Between 1968 and 1969, Kinison attended Pinecrest Bible Training Center, an interdenominational, unaccredited, 3-year Bible school located in Salisbury Center, New York. His mother married another preacher and moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Kinison lived for a while. He preached from the age of 17 to 24, and recordings of his sermons reveal that he used a fire and brimstone style, punctuated with shouts similar to the ones he would later use in his stand-up routines. His brother Bill, however, noted that, ironically, he had no stage presence and he was not very successful at making money from preaching. After Kinison and his first wife were divorced, he abandoned preaching and took up comedy. Kinison began his career in Houston, Texas, where he performed in small clubs. He became a member of a comedic group at the Comedy Workshop known as the Texas Outlaw Comics that included Bill Hicks, Ron Schock, Riley Barber, Steve Epstein, Andy Huggins, John Farnady, and Jimmy Pineapple. Hicks cited Kinison as a major influence on his comedic style, noting that he was the first guy I ever saw to go on stage and not in any way ask the audience to like him. In 1980, Kinison moved to Los Angeles hoping to find work at the Comedy Store, but was first employed as a doorman. He soon developed a cocaine and alcohol addiction, quickly progressing to freebasing cocaine, and struggled to gain a foothold in the business until his brother Bill moved to Los Angeles to help manage his career. His big break came on HBO's Rodney Dangerfield's 9th annual Young Comedians special in August 1985. After noting the performance of Bob Nelson, reviewer Stephen Holden of the New York Times wrote, "The most interesting of the other 8 comedians is the savagely misogynistic Sam Kinison. Mr. Kinison specializes in a grotesque animalist howl that might be described as the primal scream of the married man." Kinison would later appear in Rodney Dangerfield's film Back to School in 1986. In Kinison's debut television appearance on Late Night with David Letterman in 1985, Letterman's introduction of Kinison warned his audience, "Brace yourselves. I'm not kidding. Please welcome Sam Kinison." Kinison played on his former role as a Bible-preaching evangelist, taking satirical and sacrilegious shots at the Bible, Christianity, and famous Christian evangelist scandals of his day. Kinison's daring comedy helped shoot him to stardom. On several videos of his stand-up routines, a shot of the personalized license plate on his 1986 Corvette reveals the words EX-Rev. He was associated with the Los Angeles rock music scene and was occasionally accompanied by a touring band. Howard Stern purchased the film rights to Kinison's biography, written by Kinison's brother, at one point, 2008, reporting that HBO would make Brother Sam with Kinison being played by Dan Fogler. In an interview with Sam's brother and manager Bill Kinison, Bill mentioned film deals that were in development at the time of his death. One such deal was a film with Arnold Schwarzenegger and another with Rick Moranis. In May 1988, his youngest brother Kevin shot himself to death at the age of 28, which devastated Sam. Kinison acquired much of his material from his first two marriages to Patricia Adkins 1975 to 1980 and Terry Mars 1981 to 1989. He began a relationship with dancer Malika Swiri toward the end of his marriage with Mars. In 1990, Swiri alleged she was raped by a man Kinison had hired as a bodyguard while Kinison was asleep in the house. The bodyguard stated that the sex was consensual. The jury deadlocked in the subsequent trial, and the charges were later dropped. Kinison frequented rock shows and often hung out with musicians. In May 1991, Kinison got in a fight with Slash at a hotel after Slash missed a planned appearance at one of Kinison's shows. Slash stated that Kinison nearly choked him to death before Slash's bandmate Duff McKagan intervened. Slash and McKagan declined to press charges after the incident. On April 4, 1992, 6 days before his death, Kinison married Swiri at the Candlelight Chapel in Las Vegas. They honeymooned in Hawaii for 5 days before returning home to Los Angeles on April 10th to prepare for a show that night at the Riverside Resort Hotel and Casino in Laughlin, Nevada. Swiri sued Kinison's brother Bill in 1995 for allegedly defaming her in his book Brother Sam, The Short Spectacular Life of Sam Kinison, and then again in 2009 for allegedly forging Sam's will. In February 2011, the Toronto Sun reported that Kinison had fathered a child with the wife of his best friend and opening act, Carl LeBove, who had been paying child support for the girl for nearly 13 years. LeBove filed legal papers claiming the girl was Kinison's, and DNA tests taken from Kinison's brother Bill show a 99.8% likelihood that Kinison was the father of the unnamed woman. On April 10, 1992, Kinison was driving his Pontiac Turbo Trans AM when it was struck head-on on Needles Highway, northwest of Needles, California, by a pickup truck driven by a young man named Troy Pearson. Prior to the crash, Pearson had been drinking alcohol. The pickup truck crossed the center line of the roadway while trying to pass another vehicle and moved into Kinison's lane. Kinison and his wife were on their way to Laughlin, Nevada to perform at a sold-out show at the Riverside Casino. Kinison was found unconscious between the seats of his car at the scene of the accident. He was not wearing a seatbelt. His head smashed the windshield and he was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 38 years old. His wife survived the collision and then recovered after being sent directly to a hospital in Needles for treatment. An autopsy found that Kinison sustained multiple traumatic injuries, including a dislocation in the cervical spine, a torn aorta, and torn blood vessels in his abdominal cavity, which resulted in his death within a few minutes of the crash. Pearson, who was a young man at the time, was not seriously injured in the crash. Pearson pled guilty to 1 count of vehicular manslaughter with gross negligence. He was sentenced to 1 year of probation and 300 hours of community service. Pearson also had his driver's license suspended for 2 years in connection with the collision. Kinison reportedly said to no one in particular as his last words, "Why now?" then paused, asked, "But why?" and after another pause, said, "Okay. A friend who was with him at the time later recalled, whatever voice was talking to him gave him the right answer and he just relaxed with it. On April 15, 1992, at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Burbank, California, a funeral service was held. Kinison's body was buried in a family grave plot at Memorial Park Cemetery in Tulsa, Oklahoma. His gravestone is inscribed, "In another time and place he would have been called prophet." Comedian George Carlin's 8th HBO stand-up comedy special, Jammin' in New York, was dedicated to Kinison's memory. At the beginning of the broadcast, the words, "This show is for Sam," appeared on the screen. After his death, Kinison was fondly remembered by his friends and co-stars. Ozzy Osbourne said, Apparently, when Sam had the accident, I heard he got out of the car and looked up to the heavens and said, "I don't want to die," and then just said, "Oh, okay," and laid sick down and died. It sounds crazy and will probably offend a lot of my fans, but I believe there's a higher power. Some people may think Sam Kinison's in one place, but I know where he is. He's upstairs, he's next to God. On May 23, 1993, Fox aired a special, a tribute to Sam Kinison. The special contained archival footage of Kinison and stand-up comedy performances by comedians including Robin Williams, Rodney Dangerfield, and Jim Carrey. Between 2008 and 2013, there were some press releases regarding a possible dramatic film to be based on the memoir Brother Sam, The Short, Spectacular Life of Sam Kinison by Kinison's brother Bill Kinison and Steve Delzone. Kinison's comedy was at times accused of containing misogyny and homophobia, according to a retrospective on Kinison's career in the Los Angeles Times. For example, the group Queer Nation Nebraska demonstrated on a sidewalk in front of a Kinison show in Lincoln in February 1991, chanting "Anti-woman, anti-gay, Sam Kinison, go away." His "Have You Seen Me Lately?" album carried a disclaimer sticker stating, "The material on this album does not reflect the views or opinions of Warner Brothers Records." Employees at Warner Brothers requested that their bosses not release it due to the controversial material on Kinison's first album. In a 2016 article by John Huger in New York, Huger contended that the comedy of past comedians, including Kinison, was not positively embraced by younger generations, perhaps because their material has come to be viewed as anachronistically sexist and misogynistic with time. Huger noted that a modern reevaluation was complicated by the possibility that Kinison could be considered as playing an intentionally shocking character rather than speaking as himself. Thanks for watching today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.